Boom. Hey, everybody. John Arvosis here, Washington, D.C., here to talk about Ukraine. Hello, you all. Hello, TikTok. Lauren, Poppy, good to see you guys. Hey, everybody. Whoa, another day. What day is today? Even Monday? God, I don't even know. This is the danger when you work on your own. You're never quite sure what day is what because they're all the same. Oh, my. I've got my tea I just made in the wonderful little kettle that Tyson got me. Very excited. How's everybody doing? We're going to start in a sec. I'm just getting my tea ready. My voice is iffy. Cue the Russians. The Russians have been really all over this TikTok of late. I don't know. Somebody got the message out there, clearly. The tea is, hang on, is a combination and just a combination of convenience of green tea, decaf green tea, because it is 6 p.m. in Washington, D.C., decaf green tea mixed with a lemon ginger tea, because you folks told me I should get lemon ginger for my voice. And it also has a probiotic in it, which I've never even heard of tea having before. I thought that was a bit odd. Anyway, hello all. Well, as usual, I think I'm going to, as the new usual, I'm going to jump right in. We're not going to wait for folks to come on because actually we're already getting a pretty good crowd already. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I will start by the explanations. I always go about 20 minutes first with the news. Thank you, Louis, for that. And who was that? And Mike Webb with the hat, of course. And then we do Q&A, question and answer, discussion, whatever you want. On TikTok, thank you, Cami. Use my profile to find the Q&A function and use that to leave me the questions. For the rest of you, use the comment box. And of course, super chat questions are always welcome. And finally, gifts on TikTok are also always welcome. I will always try to do a thank you if I see the gift. If you catch me in the middle of reading a quote, I may miss it. Thank you, Kanowski, for that. All right, guys, let me take right in. I will tell you briefly, and we can talk about it more a little later, but the Discord, my new Discord finally launched today. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. You can, just to remind folks, since I always forget we have new people, TikTok is over here, YouTube, Twitch, etc. is over here. This is why you will see me looking at that camera and look at me at this camera. So don't be offended when I look back and forth. I've got a new Discord just opened. Discord is discord.aravosis.com, my last name. And the store, of course, is aravosis.com. So my store is aravosis.com. The Discord is discord.aravosis.com. Check it out. Have a look. If you know Discord, if you don't know Discord, we can talk about that afterwards, and maybe some folks can help explain what it is. But I'm hoping we can use it to chat after hours, things like that. So let me take right in, folks. So let's start talking first about Kherson. Kherson, we will talk about what a Discord is, Lisa, afterwards. Or if somebody on TikTok wants to jump in and explain to Lisa what a Discord is, I would not mind that while I'm proceeding with the news. That might be very nice of you guys to help her out with. So here's the deal, all right? We've got Kherson, the region and the town down here, all right? The Ukrainians are planning a counteroffensive. Currently, this is occupied by the Russians. And as I always like to kind of show you guys, all of this is occupied by the Russians, okay? Everything here. This is Russia over here. This is Russia over here. So the Ukrainians are planning a big counteroffensive. We think from what they've said. There we go. Thank you, Tabby. From what they've said, they've seemed to indicate they're going to be, by a counteroffensive, I mean, the Russians hold this territory. It looks like the Ukrainians are going to launch a big attack to try to take it back, which would be pretty cool. So in terms of Kherson, which is right here, the advisor to the Kherson administration for the region says that Russian forces are deliberately sending civilian traffic over the main bridge by the hydroelectric plant. There's 3 big bridges there. Ukraine has been trying to hit them. Lighting. Why do you guys keep saying lighting? What's up with my lighting? Sorry, don't mean to stop, but what are you guys doing here? Malavra, what are you talking about lighting? My lighting's fine. You guys got to give me, okay, I was going to say, you've got to, that's not, well, that's, okay, the lighting going bright and dark is what happens when my curtains are open and the sun and the moon the sun and the clouds go back and forth. That's unfortunate. I have told my muse that likes me to have my curtains open that we get funny lighting issues when the curtains are open with the sun and the moon. All I would ask in the future, if you guys are trying to give me advice on something, give me more than one word. That would be very helpful. So if something's wrong, give me, actually, for any of the folks that you guys any of the creators, it's really, I'm not even trying to be kind of pissy about it. It's very helpful to get the feedback, but make sure you always give them a complete sentence of what the problem is, so that if they're going to stop they know if they've got to stop mid-sentence, just so you know. All right, let me keep going. So the Ukrainians have been hitting 3 bridges pretty much along this axis right here. And the idea is to try to trap the Russians that are in the north here. There's not a lot of them. Most of the Russian troops are south of the Dnipro River here. But some of them are north of the river right around here. And the Ukrainians are trying to trap these guys. Presumably, they would be probably the first part of the counterattack, right? You cut them off. They can't get new weapons. They can't get new tanks. They can't get new ammunition. And if you're coming down on them with a counteroffensive from the north, they can't evacuate. They can't retreat, right? So the Ukrainians have been constantly hitting again and again and again with those bridges. And what the Russians started doing, according to the head of the region, listen to this. They're basically, the Russians, they are basically using the civilians as human shields to spare the bridges from getting hit any further. Listen to this. The Russians are deliberately sending, according to the head of the region, civilian traffic over the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant bridge and allowing civilians to use pontoon bridges to prevent Ukrainian forces from targeting those bridges. He also noted, the head of the region, that the Russian forces have also placed their air defense systems in a Kherson city residential neighborhood. I mean, again, this is not surprising. It is disappointing, though, because, Amnesty International started this whole big disinformation discussion about, the Ukrainians putting citizens at risk, when it's the Russians putting citizens at risk. And unfortunately, now they've given the Russians, ammunition for this. A little more tea. There's also really good news in the area from the partisans. Now, the partisans, we've talked about before, partisans, resistance, freedom fighters, if you will, Wolverines, if you're American, or if you're into kitschy old American TV shows. Partisans are basically private citizens that live in an occupied territory. They're Ukrainians that live in a region where the Russians took over and the Russians are occupying. And the private citizens don't formally join the military, but they secretly work with military intelligence. They get bomb making materials, they get instructions. And by day, they may be working in a power plant, working at the auto shop, but at night they sneak out with their friends and they plant bombs to disrupt the Russian administration of the region. Well, listen to this. There's been really amazing efforts going on in terms of Kherson, that region I was telling you about. Kherson, which is the region right here, that's seen the most partisan activity from what we've seen. And again, a partisan in this case doesn't mean partisan, Democrat versus Republican. It means a citizen who has secretly taken up arms against an occupying government, an occupying force. So listen to this. Ukrainian partisans are becoming increasingly coordinated in their propaganda and targeting activities. This came from the Institute for the Study of War, which is that really good defense think tank that I like here in Washington, D.C. They do a daily analysis that's really good. The Ukrainian Resistance Center reported on August 7th that Ukrainian partisans launched their first newspaper in Kherson, the city, which, it just cracks me up. On August 4th, called The Voice of the Partisan, and claimed that they had distributed 1,200 paper copies of a PDF of the newspaper. So they literally are printing this out and handing it out to people, which is really, or handing it out somewhere, a dangerous activity. I mean, these guys are living under occupation. This is an incredibly dangerous thing they're doing, and more power to them. But I mean, they've been blowing up Russian occupation forces, like the local Russian officials. They've been blowing up Ukrainian officials who have been collaborators, and by collaborators we mean people that are Ukrainians who are working for the Russians, working for the bad guys, traitors. They've been blowing them up as well. But now they have a newspaper. Ukrainian partisan Telegram channel, Yellow Ribbon. They've got I love this. They've got a Telegram channel. Telegram is a social media app that a lot of the Russians and a lot of the Ukrainians use. We don't really use it. I mean, my friends don't use it here. I don't think it's as popular here in the States, but it's very popular there. So the partisans have their own Telegram channel, Yellow Ribbon, announcing, this just blew me away, okay? The Ukrainian partisans announced online a bounty of 10 Bitcoin. We're talking $230,000, €230,000 bounty for the live capture and transfer of the Russian appointed governor of occupied Crimea. His name is apparently Sergei Aksionov. And if they can get their hands on him and get him to Ukraine, they will give them nearly $250,000 or €250,000. I'm going to bet that in Ukraine, that money means even more than it does here. You know, the cost of living, I'm assuming the cost of living has got to be less than it is here in Washington, D.C. So even for us, $250,000 would be fabulous. There, it's got to be amazing. But also, the point is, the fact that they're doing stuff like this, part of this is a psychological game. They're trying to scare the Russians. They're trying to scare this guy, Aksionov, who's the administrator of Crimea. And they're trying to tell him, you know what? Him and anybody else, they're saying, you know what? If you're going to work for the enemy, as Royston just said, they put a contract on him. In essence, they did put a contract on him, but the contract was not to kill him. The contract was to get him there alive. At least from what we know. Now, just to remind folks, Crimea is this peninsula down here. This is Ukraine territory that the Russians stole in 2014. Okay, so this is Crimea, just to keep in mind. So that's why the Ukrainians are especially interested in going after anybody who is helping administer that territory for the Russians, because again, they're traitors. Oop, quick bit of more tea. The security service. Oh, this was bad. The Ukrainian security service has detained Russians that it says were planning to assassinate the Ukrainian defense minister and the head of the defense ministry's intelligence directorate. In other words, defense intelligence. According to the report, the two assassins were promised up to $150,000 in rewards for each kill. You know, what's interesting to me is when I saw this story at first, I even tweeted about it because I was thinking, you know, we're telling the Russians, from what we know, the first couple of days of the invasion, they tried to assassinate Zelensky, right? They sent in a hit squad to get him. And let's face it, they would have killed his family too. I mean, there's a good bet the Russians would not have stopped if they would have gotten the whole gang of them, right? Secondly, the Russians have now sent in, we believe, a hit squad to assassinate the defense minister and the head, the head of defense intelligence, right? The issue now becomes, so the Russians have assassinations going on left and right, but we tell the Ukrainians it would be totally inappropriate and, what's the word we use? An escalation, if we gave the Ukrainian weapons that shot a little bit longer, a little bit farther, and letting them shoot weapons that are on Russian soil. The Russians can plant a weapon on Russian soil, artillery, whatever, shoot into Ukraine, kill Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are not allowed to shoot back using Western weapons. That's what we've told them. But the Russians can literally have hit squads go on. I mean, it bugs me because it's patently unfair what we're doing, but I suspect you all know that. The U.S. new aid package from the Americans was announced today, the details of it. It is a $1 billion military aid package for Ukraine. According to the Pentagon, the package includes additional ammunition for the HIMARS system, which is the rocket launch system, right? The rocket system the Ukrainians have been using to blow up the Russian ammunition depots, the bridges, and the command and control centers. In other words, military headquarters, things like that. They have, just for any of you who are like geeky about this and want to know what the details were, it's 75,000 rounds of 155 millimeter artillery ammunition, 120 millimeter mortar systems, 20,000 rounds of 120 millimeter mortar ammunition. The U.S. will also send munitions for the NASAMS system, the surface-to-air missile, 1,000 Javelin anti-tank missiles, hundreds of anti-armor systems, some armored medical vehicles, Claymores, C4, and some other stuff. So all good. Hopefully they're giving them the longer range weapons as well, the longer range missiles. Negotiations. I'm going to keep having more tea because my voice is just really bad today too. It's funny. It was starting to get better. It started getting really good 2 days ago, and then it got bad again. But, you know, hopefully someday I'll have a normal voice again. Hang on, guys. Maybe the warm tea helps too. Negotiations. So the Ukrainians are putting cold water on having negotiations anytime soon with the Russians. I think this is a smart idea. Listen to what the Ukrainians are doing. Listen to this. Mikhailo Podolyak, the advisor to the president's office, told Le Figaro newspaper, which is one of the top French papers, that Russia is currently unable to seize more Ukrainian territories, so it is inflicting damage on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. And then he adds, it is necessary to understand that the negotiation process with Russia is possible only under the condition of several important Russian tactical defeats. So what the Ukrainians are saying, and I think this is very smart, they're saying, look, at this point, there's really no, there's no great advantage to Ukraine negotiating with Russia right now, okay? First of all, let's face it, Russia wants Ukraine. Russia's going to demand half the country or something crazy. Russia's not going to say, oh, we're right. We're going to pull out of the territories we annexed and the territories we're occupying. It's not going to happen, right? From the Ukrainian perspective, they get nothing really other than the war might stop, but they lose half their country if they negotiate now. If they wait a month or 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks, they potentially, and I would say somewhere between potentially and likely, there's a decent chance that the Ukrainians are able to cause some real problems to the Russians by this counteroffensive that they're planning. And frankly, we already know the HIMARS weapons we gave them are causing massive damage for the Russian ammunition, but also now for the bridges, the command and control. Like we said, even one of the HIMARS even took out one of the Russian generals. This can only get better for the Ukrainians over the next 6 to 8 weeks, I would say. And I think the analysts are saying the same things. Clearly, it's what the Ukrainians believe. So, yeah, I don't think we should be having any negotiations until Ukraine. I'm sorry, the final point of why I'm saying this is if Ukraine's able to get more of its land back, that's a better place to start the negotiations. Then you don't even have to negotiate for that land because you got it back, right? Also, if the Russians start really having problems, if they're having problems not just hanging on to land, but they're having problems with their troops. Their troops are getting slaughtered. In a best case scenario, the Russian soldiers run for the hills. Unlikely, but possible, right? Because literally the Russian sort of command structure falls apart at the seams. Some people are saying it's possible. Who knows? Then the Ukrainians are in a much better place to negotiate. Now, Vernon is throwing in here or asking, or stating or asking, what do you make of the recent CBS report? CBS is one of the big news networks here in America, about only 1/3 of Western weapons reaching the front lines due to corruption, black market sales, etc. I don't know. I would say this. We don't really have a choice. Do we want the Russians to win or not? We should do everything we can to make sure corruption is minimized. We make that clear to the Ukrainians. But when push comes to shove, I would want to know, for example, I'd want to know, A, is it true? Right? What are their sources? Do the experts think CBS got it right? I don't know. That's my first question. 2, if it is true, how does this compare to other wars, other conflicts? If the U.S. were providing weapons in other regions, forget other similar regions, okay? I'm not talking we're providing weapons to Germany, but regions similar to Ukraine, would we have a similar issue with how much weapons got to the front? Final point. I mean, somebody, Anti-Deb, is saying CBS had to edit their story. I don't know. I'd be curious what the edit was. Okay, see, some people are already weighing in. By the way, that was on TikTok. Some folks are weighing in on YouTube as well and saying there was some revision. I read today the article is partially retracted. Do you guys know? Does anybody know to what degree? Can somebody Google it and just look it up? I'd be curious to what degree, what aspects of the article were retracted or pulled back. Can somebody just Google while we're talking, if you would? I'd appreciate it. My final point was going to be, I'm not sure if I care. I care, but I'm not sure if I care. What I mean by that is two things. Of course I care. And I want the U.S. I want the allies to do everything possible to make sure all the weapons get to the front. And I want the Ukrainians to know we care, and the Ukrainians to know that they need to do everything they can to get the weapons to the front. But when push comes to shove, we've got to stop the Russians and we've got to save the Ukrainian people from genocide. My interest right now is not going, well, gosh, every weapon didn't make it to the front. I think we should let 43 million Ukrainians die. I think we should let the Russians just take over, right? And we should just empower the Russians and embolden them to possibly attack Europe next and go to war with NATO. I mean, obviously, I'm being facetious by saying that, but I mean, thank you, Kanausi, for that. That's what I mean by I don't care, which is I feel like, either this is important or it's not important. The same thing happened, by the way, with the economic crisis. COVID as well. There was something at the beginning of COVID that was working the same way, I want to say. There was something where basically it was sometimes you've just got to throw solutions at the problem and not wait for the best solution. Right? Certainly with the economic crisis, that was part of it. I'm talking all the way back in 2008, right? They had to get money out there and they had to get money in the economy fast. And there was no way to sit there and go, hey, let's slow this down and make sure all the money gets there as accounted and blah, blah, blah. We had to get money in the economy fast because we were in danger in that case of a new Great Depression. So again, I don't want to discount the story entirely. I'd like to know what the story is, and then finally, like I said, I'd like to know to what degree is this what happens when you're dealing with countries that are not at America's level of corruption or not corruption. I mean, we have corruption too, but it's different. You know what I mean? There wouldn't be that kind of corruption. But also, is that just what we're dealing with? And frankly, Russia. Russia's got as much, if not more, corruption than Ukraine. We know that. So to some degree, it's not a non-story, but it almost reminds me of like the Amnesty International stuff. It's almost like, yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure what your point is. And you certainly are helping the enemy to a degree. Let me just see what I'm looking up here. Roshin. Okay, I'm going to try to write this down, but I'm not promising anything. Roshin. The problem is I can't remember the syllable and the vowel. I don't have a good memory for that kind of stuff. So I'm trying here. Let me see. CBS. Let me see what people were saying of the story. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying, Thomas. It admitted that a figure it cited claiming only 30% of military aid arrives was out of date. Oh, God. Okay, that's not very helpful. Among the material removed, that's something else. Among the material removed was a quote. The founder of pro-Ukraine nonprofit Blue Yellow, who said in late April that only around 30% of aid was reaching the front lines in Ukraine. Yeah, but that's a rather vague statement. Only 30% of aid was reaching the front lines. What does that mean? That's not a good. I'd have to see the exact quote, but the lawyer in me, because lawyers are trained to look for nuance, that could mean the aid is coming to the country and it's going to other places. That's not the front line. That could be bingo. Poli-sci history guy just said what I was going to say on TikTok. That could be logistical issues. That could say, yeah, we've got a lot of aid coming in, but we just don't have the structure in place to get all that aid to the front line. Now, is Webadub says aid is food. Is aid food? Is aid weapons? What is aid? Is aid food and water that you can't get to the front lines of fighting? Because how do you get food and water to citizens when there's bombing going on? So anyway, that quote alone bothers me because I'm going, okay, I can think of 10 different permutations of what that quote means. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are not. Oh, and Julia's texted me. All right, see what you're saying here. Hold on. If you know anything about this topic, hang on. Whoops. Oh. Yeah, I mean, what Yulia's saying is that there's at least some reporting on that story having been totally faked. So that's what I'm saying. I wanted, but again, we're sort of, you sent me the whole story. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Well, good. Actually, well, let me look really quick. Anyway, can somebody, it is certainly going to scare Americans potentially into not supporting. And the worst part is that's the kind of stuff that once it's out there, it doesn't go away. Because, for example, Tucker Carlson on Fox News hates Ukraine, loves Putin. He is going to do everything he can to use that story, and Tucker does not care about the truth. But I mean, quite literally, he doesn't. He doesn't care about that. He's going to just use that story to try to convince he's going to go, well, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying there's this report in CBS. I mean, I don't normally like CBS, but even CBS, who's a shill for Ukraine, even this is what Tucker would say, right? And he would say it in a way where Tucker's not lying. He's going, I'm not lying. I'm not telling you what to believe. CBS is telling you what to believe. And see, even CBS, right? So you know what's going to happen with this. Yeah. That's now Roshin, I think I got that right, is also noting that only CBS is making the claim and no other news outlets have confirmed it. And that's a very interesting point as well. Thank you, Two-Eared Artist. Appreciate that. That's a really good, that's correct. That's a massive flag because reporters always want to, that's a pretty big story. Reporters always want to grab stories like that and make it their own. So you'll always hear, well, either CNN has been unable to independently verify the story, or CNN has learned blah 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 as originally reported on CBS. You'll see that kind of a reference. So they'll give credit, but they'll say we've confirmed with 2 sources inside the Pentagon, and then they'll kind of throw in CBS kind of was the original one. Thank you, Marcy. So anyway, interesting discussion here. Oh, is a quote from Google? Okay. Jillian, you've misled a huge audience by sharing unsubstantiated claims and damaging trust in supplies. Who's the quote from, Jillian? Who's that quote from? Just curious. I know my green tea might be it's not supposed to be caffeinated. It might be. Yeah, one charity quoted back in April. It was not about arms. This is what Kelly Fonce is saying. It's good to get this stuff out there, though, because this way all of us know the story now. The 30% quoted in the headline, Kelly Fonce is saying on YouTube, and the headline referred to humanitarian aid from one charity quoted back in April. It was not about arms. The NGO, which is a nonprofit, we say in America, quoted, said the situation has changed since then. Since that time, Oman says, delivery has improved. It also noted the U.S. had sent an official, Brigadier General Garrick Harmon, to Kyiv specifically to monitor the use of military aid. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so now, Jillian, so who's the above quote from, Jillian? Just curious, and then we'll move on. Hi, Eric. We're kind of in the middle of a whole debunking of a CBS story here. Pentagon says all arms have been accounted for, and they now have a new military attaché in Kyiv. Oh, that was from Kuleba, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Okay. So there you go. Thank you, Netlin. It's unfortunate because this story will be used to hurt Ukraine. And as I said, it'll be used by the enemies of Ukraine. But what really worries me is it'll be used by the enemies of Ukraine in the United States as well. And that's bad because eventually things change with elections. Republicans might take the Congress. In the Senate, the Republicans in charge, Mitch McConnell, very pro-Ukraine on this issue. In the House, in the House, they're in line with Donald Trump. Anyway, we'll move on. Jeff Clark, it may be rare. In America, it's easy to buy decaffeinated green tea. It is. It may be rare in the rest of the world or in the rest of the country, but in Washington, D.C., pretty easy. All right, guys. Let me move on. Sorry, that was a detour, but it was an important detour. I think it's important for us to kind of debunk those stories because they're going to be out there anyway. All right. Well, this was a nasty story about Russia kidnapping more children. According to the Luhansk Oblast governor, Luhansk is the region out over here. The Russians control most of it. I don't know, 98%, whatever. Sorry, the sun's coming in again. There we go. I'll go a little closer. Now you can see. This is Luhansk over here, controlled by the Russian, but the governor is still Ukrainian. I mean, the governor is still a good guy. According to the Luhansk governor, Serhiy Khadai, the commissioner for children's rights under the president of the Russian Federation, so in other words, Russia's children's right experts, came to the occupied cities in the east to organize the deportation of orphans and children without parental care from the occupied territories of Luhansk to Russia. So check this out. So what's being alleged, and again, I'm more willing to believe the Ukrainians than the Russians on this front. What's being alleged is the Russians are sending their government officials that deal with, taking care of children, and they're finding orphans in eastern Ukraine. And rather than turning the orphans over to the other Ukrainians, they're talking about deporting them to Russia. Now, let the Russians say this isn't true, because the Russians already admitted that 2 million Ukrainians, including 200,000 children, are in Russia now. And they've already admitted, orphans, exactly, Felix, orphans. Orphaned because Boris shot mommy and daddy. Orphans, yeah. They're orphans, but they're orphans because the Russians killed them. Russians murdered them. But so just drives me crazy. Oh, kidnapping. Oh, no, trust me. The title is, I even titled the section, Kidnapping Children. Onto the bridges. Okay, so back to the bridges again. So those bridges I was talking about in Kherson. Remember, the bridges are along the river right here, this area of the river. Hang on a second. Elise, I'll get to yours in a sec. The Ukrainian armed forces hit 2 bridges in the Kherson Oblast, according to a spokesperson for the Joint Southern Command of the Ukrainian Armed Forces on August 8th, which is today. The Ukrainian military hit the Antonovsky Bridge and the Kakhovsky Bridge, a key supply route for Russian occupiers in Kherson Oblast. Let me just see real quick what Elise was putting up here. It may not be random. That's a good point, actually. It may not be random that all these diverse, scandalous stories are springing up. The Russians are increasingly cornered and really good at this. That's very true. That's very true. This is something the Soviet Union was particularly good at. I would say Russia, I don't think, has been as good as the Soviets were. But the Russians know how to do it. What the Soviets would do, which was just famous for, they had journalists on the payroll. And they had journalists on the payroll in Africa. They loved to do it in Africa, sometimes Latin America, but Africa was their favorite. And whether it's Nigeria, whoever, I can't even remember anymore who were the countries, that had an affinity for Russia. KGB would go there, pay journalists, and they would, a story they wanted out there, they would pay, again, their journalist on the take in Africa to write the story. And for example, the big story was baby parts. I remember at the time, baby parts. And somehow it was this larger cockamamie story about babies being, and whether it was orphans and countries being exported or something, but they were exporting them for their baby parts and using like their hands and arms to transplant on white Western babies. Like, my white Western baby doesn't have an arm, so I'd go and get an El Salvadoran baby or something crazy. Kidneys was another thing I remember, to steal their organs. To steal their organs was the big thing. Anyway, they also accused the Israelis of doing this stuff as well, I remember. Well, anyway, they would have like a newspaper in Nigeria print it. They would pay the reporter to print it. And then Radio Moscow reports, and they would be, this is Radio Moscow. The Nigerian Republic newspaper reports that the Israelis are trafficking in human parts. And it was Radio Moscow wasn't alleging it. Moscow was quoting papers from around the world. And if anything, couldn't you imagine, even today, could you imagine, not especially today, somebody going, oh no, I love them. Radio Moscow's great. They don't just quote the New York Times. They get the real news at the source. They talk to reporters in El Salvador. They talk to reporters in Nigeria, right? I mean, you'd literally be like, this is great. They're talking to people all over the world. That's how they used to do it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians do it today if they're able to do it. If they're able to. But yeah. Yes, and as an aside, yes, Olivia Newton-John died today at 73, which was sad. Yep, I loved her in Grease. I did love her in Grease. And I saw two songs that she was responsible for that I had no idea. One was Honestly Love You, which I had no idea that was Olivia Newton-John. Blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But in any case, she died. So too bad. 73, which as you get older and your parents get older, 73 isn't that old anymore. But again, it happens, unfortunately. Xanadu. Yeah, Xanadu was not my favorite. But I did love her in Grease. Grease was my absolute favorite. Still love those songs. I mean, Let's Get Physical. Let's Get Physical was okay. All right, let's move on. We'll get back to that. So yes, the bridges. Oh, Russia. So this is not good. This is from British Defense Intelligence. Elise, I'll get this off there. Or did I? Oh, that's yours, Elise. Okay, good. I didn't miss anything. British Defense Intelligence, and this is their report today. They do a nice daily report. She was hot. Yeah. Even I say that, and not my cup of tea. Listen to this. So the Russians are reportedly using anti-personnel mines that are the same kind of mines they used in Afghanistan, the butterfly mines, that children would get blown up and blow up their hands and arms because they looked like toys. And the Russians are now reportedly using them in Ukraine. Listen to this. This is from British Defense Intelligence, their update. Russia is highly likely. So again, intelligence folks are going to use, they're going to use terminology like this because basically very often in intelligence, they don't necessarily know something for a fact. Sometimes they do, but they can have high confidence, low confidence, possibility. In this case, they're saying highly likely, which means all signs point to it being true, but they're just short of nailing it down. Russia is highly likely deploying anti-personnel mines to protect and deter freedom of movement along its defensive lines in the Donbass. The Donbass is the combination of regions in eastern Ukraine, Luhansk, which I just told you about, and Donetsk, which is right next to it, just west. The combination of them is called Donbass, okay? And this is the region that Russia was making a huge push to get, but now the Russians are getting worried about the upcoming counteroffensive by the Ukrainians. So the Russians have started to move their troops from that region down to Zaporizhia, down to Kherson. So you get on the map. So Donbass is, all of this, more or less. The fighting was going heavy here. The Russians are now being forced to move troops here and forced to move troops here because they're preparing for the Ukrainian counteroffensive. And frankly, they're getting worried. The Russians are. So it seems that the Russians are now scattering anti-personnel mines, highly likely, along the front line in Donetsk, the capital of Donetsk, and Kramatorsk, another town there. Russia has highly likely attempted employment of PFM-1 and PFM-1S scatterable anti-personnel mines, commonly called the butterfly mine. The PFM-1 series are deeply controversial, indiscriminate weapons. They go on. PFM-1s were used to devastating effect in the Soviet-Afghan War, where they allegedly maimed high numbers of children who mistook them for toys. It is highly likely that the Soviet, this is the scary part too. Listen to this. It is highly likely that the Soviet-era stock being used by Russia will have degraded over time and are now highly unreliable and unpredictable. This poses a threat to both the local population and humanitarian mine clearance operations. So it's a disaster. It's also going to pose a threat to the Russian troops themselves trying to deploy them, really. Joseph is weighing in from YouTube. Learned today that the Ukraine chief of army. The Ukrainian chief of army, who's the first not to have served in the Soviet army, and has made its army train upon NATO standards in many areas. Learned today the Ukraine. Okay, you're confusing me a little there, Joseph. I want commas. I want punctuations in that sentence. Okay. So he's the first that didn't serve in the Soviet army. That's good. And has made its army train up to NATO standards in many areas. Okay. So he's been responsible for helping train the army up to NATO standards. Good. Good. Well, we know they've made Ukrainians made a big change since 2014. The Russians came in, they stole Crimea. Excuse me. And since then, the Ukrainians really did, yeoman's work or whatever you call it to really modernize their military. In terms of, the referendum. So listen to this. This story's crazy too, actually. Hold on. This is about, we know that Russia wants to annex eastern Ukraine, the Donbass, right? The word we just heard. So Donbass, which is over here. And they really want, we now know, we pretty much can guess that they want to annex these regions to Zaporizhia and Kherson. Okay. Well, when they annexed Crimea at first, the Russians, held a referendum to prove that the locals didn't want to be Ukrainian anymore. They wanted to be Russian, right? Well, oops, you know what? I'm tempted to, let's see how it goes, but in a minute, I may be closing my curtain. Actually, I'm going to close my curtains just because I'm getting worried as to whether my face is getting too dark for you guys. Give me a sec here. The sun finally came out. Oops. One sec here. One more moment here. Oh, there we go. I'm making it so I can shut the curtain more easily. One sec. All right. Okay, that should help at least. Now we're not getting, at least I'm not getting direct sunlight on myself, which is a pain in the ass. I still may, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to do one more thing to shut them. Sorry. I don't like going this dark, but okay, Google, turn on the backlight. Okay, it's not as, it doesn't look as nice in here with the curtains closed, but the lighting gets so screwed up. When the sun comes in the window, it knocks everything out. I know, John living the nights with manual closing, it drives me crazy. The problem is my windows are so big that it would be prohibitively expensive to get these things. Well, no, but I don't like first of all, it's warm for me, but also I can tell that my face is going dark and you guys can't see. And, it's a show. So I want to keep the lighting good. All right. So anyway, the Russians are now talking about having referenda in the newer occupied territories. Thank you for that, Ned Lynn. And listen to this, what they're doing, because they're gonna make people vote in order to prove that everybody wants to be part of Russia. Listen to what they're doing. This is amazing. The Ukrainian mayor of Melitopol, down here, all right, occupied by the Russians. The Ukrainian mayor of Melitopol in the Zaporizhia Oblast, Ivan Fedorov, reported on August 7th, so yesterday, that resistance among Ukrainian residents has forced Russian authorities to constantly change their plans for a referendum. Fedorov claimed that occupation authorities had planned a single day of voting. but are now considering 7 days of voting from home, in which, listen to this, okay? Now, let me tell you too. So the idea was they were going to have voting and voting booths and things, but the resistance has done such a good job in blowing things up that the Russians are terrified of getting blown up if they try to do this. So now they're going to have 7 days of voting from home. Now, on the face of it, hey, voting from home, that sounds nice, right? Nice and private, easy for in wartime. People don't have to leave their homes, right? Listen to this. Voting for home, in which armed Russian military personnel will go house to house and interview Melitopol residents. They're a dictatorship. This is the thing. What could possibly go wrong? They're a dictatorship. This is the crap they do, but also they're kind of proud of it and they don't mind doing it, even though we would look at it and go, are you insane? Like, everybody knows it's a fake. They don't care. Well, there's a number of reasons why they're doing this, though. Listen to this. More tea. This is from, by the way, this is from the Institute for the Study of War. So listen to this. This effort is unnecessary to rig the vote to the outcome the Kremlin desires. Okay. So they're saying they don't need to do this. They can obviously just go and rig the vote, right? They're going to be in control of the ballot boxes, just right. They can pick whoever they want. But it does make any independent oversight of the vote nearly impossible, right? So nobody can actually, there can't be any vote watchers from anywhere to confirm it because it's happening in your home. They go on. Occupation authorities may also turn these surveys into intelligence gathering operations to weed out Ukrainian opposition in occupied areas. Removing in-person polling stations removes many requirements for bureaucrats to staff those locations. Mind you, because the bureaucrats kept getting blown up and killed. Russian forces have struggled to recruit people into those positions from occupied populations. In-home voting also limits opportunities for partisan attacks on those locations. There you go. Now, the final thing I want to tell you really quick, kind of a really big story. Oh, that's funny. This is funny. I was going to tell you this really quick, and my cousin is now asking me about the story. So General Milley, it's kind of a big story. It unrelated to Ukraine, but I think it's an interesting story. And as I've said, occasionally I'm going to bring up important news that isn't Ukraine. So we'll end with this. I mean, I'm still around. We're not going away. But I wanted to mention this. So in a new book by, forgetting their names. Oh, God, what are their names? New York Times reporter Peter Baker and his wife, Susan Glasser, writing in the New Yorker. They've got a new book coming out in a few weeks. And the book, they got a copy of a resignation letter that General Mark Milley had written to Donald Trump. Now, Milley, it was then and is still the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Trump had appointed him to the job. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is America's top uniformed military official. Okay. The head of the military, we have a civilian head because we're a democracy. The head of the military is the Secretary of Defense. But the top person in the military with a uniform is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. It is an incredibly powerful position, obviously, and an incredible serious position. These guys usually have 3 or 4 stars. They're a big deal. Okay. So get this. The Milley was going to resign. And he wrote Trump a long letter telling him why. The reason was because when there were all the protests happening, and we're talking before the election, right? This is like the Black Lives Matter protests. And there were protesters in Washington. They were across the street from the White House in Lafayette Park. And Trump didn't like it. And he wanted to do a photo op meaning a photo opportunity across the street at a church that's there. And it's a church famous because it's the president's church. It's where the presidents who pray go to pray. So Trump wants the area cleared. He has security do it. The police, he orders them to go. They clear everybody out of the plaza. It was quite violent. And Trump then triumphantly goes through the plaza with, his daughter, this kind of BS. And this was bad enough. He's holding a Bible, which appeared to be upside down, and Trump doesn't go to church. Trump doesn't have a Bible. I mean, please. In any case, he goes through this plaza, but who's with him? He forced the head of the military, the general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, to go with him. In full uniform, this man is going through the plaza they've just cleared to do a photo opportunity for Trump about how Trump is triumphant over the domestic American protesters. It was sickening. In America, we don't do that. We don't do that, okay? And this Trump does it. Well, Milley, and this is super important because Donald Trump's own guy, Donald Trump, the guy Trump picked for the job, the top official, the top general in America's military, was so incensed that he wrote a 3-page letter. And guys, I am going to read you a decent chunk of this because it is amazing. Now, I will say, knowing Peter Baker, I mean, I don't know Peter Baker, but I know him professionally. He's Greek, by the way, Greek boy. Knowing Peter Baker, he validated the letter. He wouldn't have published the letter if it was validated. I can pretty much guarantee you Milley validated it to Baker. So listen to this. The letter. I regret to inform you that I intend to resign as your chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The events of the last couple of weeks have caused me to do some deep soul searching, and I can no longer faithfully support and execute your orders. It is my belief. Listen to this. This is the beginning of the letter. It is my belief. I'm reading this, so excuse me for looking over here. It is my belief that you were doing great and irreparable harm to my country. I believe that you have made a concerted effort over time to politicize the United States military. I thought that I could change that. I've come to realization that I cannot, and I need to step aside and let someone else try to do that. Secondly, you are using the military to create fear in the minds of the people, and we are trying to protect the American people. I cannot stand idly by and participate in that attack, verbally or otherwise, on the American people. He goes on and talks about how the American people have to trust their military. Third, I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and embodied within that Constitution is the idea that all men and women are created equal. I've got to read you this whole thing because it's this good. All men and women are created equal, no matter who you are, whether you are white or black, Asian, Indian, no matter the color of your skin, no matter if you're gay, straight, or something in between. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Jew, or choose not to believe. None of that matters. It doesn't matter what country you came from, what your last name is. What matters is we are Americans. We are all Americans. That under these colors of red, white, and blue, the colors of our flag, the colors that my parents fought for in World War II mean something around the world. It is obvious to me that you don't think of those colors the same way I do. It's obvious to me that you don't hold those values dear and the cause that I serve. Listen to the last part. Hold on, where's the... Oh yeah, listen to the last part. And lastly, this last part is unbelievable that he wrote. I mean, amazing, but unbelievable that he wrote this. And lastly, it is my deeply held belief that you are ruining the international order and causing significant damage to our country overseas that was fought for so hard by the greatest generation that they instituted in 1945. Between 1914 and 1945, 150 million people were slaughtered in the conduct of war. They were slaughtered because of the tyrannies and dictatorships. That generation, like every generation, has fought against that, has fought against fascism, has fought against Nazism, has fought against extremism. It's now obvious to me that you don't understand that world order. You don't understand what the war was all about. In fact, you subscribe to many of the principles that we fought against. And I cannot be a party to that. It is with deep regret that I hereby submit my letter of resignation. He called Donald Trump a Nazi. Basically called Donald Trump a Nazi. He certainly said a fascist. At best, he called Donald Trump an Italian Mussolini fascist, at best. What is interesting is that the letter was finally released. I think Milley released it. I really do. I think Milley released it. I guarantee you, thank you, Knausse, Peter Baker would not have published the letter, I think, without Milley confirming it. I think absolutely positively, Milley told him, yeah, I wrote it. Now, some people said that they were upset that Milley did not resign, right? He wrote the letter, but right? But what did he do? Well, I was thinking about that though. Think about it. I want a man like that as chairman of the Joint Chiefs if we have a dangerous president in power. I don't want Michael Flynn, who's the crazy general who was Donald Trump's national security advisor for literally 10 days, 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks. He's now cuckoo. He believes all the crazy election stuff. He makes Donald Trump Jr. look sane, and Donald Trump Jr. is into all the crazy stuff. I mean, it's like woo-woo, this guy. He would have been, I think he would have absolutely been the guy Donald Trump picked to be chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So, I mean, I am glad Milley decided to stay, because here's the thing. Had Donald Trump ordered the military, actually, I read something else that wasn't here. And maybe it was talking to Milley's friends or something else, but I read a little bit more of the article. And what apparently Milley's logic was, Milley had told his colleagues that I'm going to stay, I'm going to stop him, and if he tries to fire me for refusing to go along with it with his BS, he goes, let him try to fire me. He goes, and the spectacle it'll bring to everything he's doing. Because then Milley basically would have gone public and accused him of being a fascist. And then, I mean, but I absolutely would want somebody like Milley to stop Trump if Trump was going to use nukes. I would want Milley to stop Trump if Trump were going to use, which Trump wanted to use, the American military to do basically policing on American soil, going after political opponents, which is totally illegal. I mean, it's abhorrent, but it's also totally illegal. So I think I don't think he's a coward. I think it's really good that he stayed. That's what I'm saying. So what's your basis for saying what you're saying other than opinion? Opinion and 30 years of expertise in national politics and several graduate degrees and stuff like that. That's my basis. So that's why people listen to experts, because experts know things. They don't always get things right, but experts tend to get things more right than people who aren't experts when they're discussing their expertise. That's why folks are here. I'm also charming and handsome, so I'm sure some folks are here for that. My dog is kind of an attention whore, so she gets attention too. Some people are here for that, but I think a lot of people are here because, whatever, people like that. I know I shouldn't even respond when people bring that kind of crap up, but it drives me a little crazy. That's your opinion. Because the thing is, that's also something that people on the far right like to do. That's your opinion. I'm like, and what is that? Like, are we 6 years old? That's your opinion. I know. We actually, Agent Orange, you're here for my great profile, which I don't think I've got a great profile, but what do you do? My great hair. There we go. That's why you're here. Forget this politics stuff. So hang on a second. I know I'm here for the dog. Feels like they are doing this to hopefully undermine Trump in this election and knock him out of the race. I think you are seeing more being done. You're seeing this kind of stuff happen to try to cause more problems for Trump. I think that is the case. Now, mind you, there's the problem is Trumpism. I don't want to get into a whole Trump thing right now, because I was always saying that what I'd be interested in doing would be, for example, have a separate day that we talk about non-Ukraine news. If Trump keeps being in the news, we can talk about Trump one day, Thank you, Iggy woman. So anyway, like I said, I didn't mean to diverge into a total Trump thing, but that was a huge story that came out, and I think very important. And it's also important for folks to understand, in my opinion, why Milley stayed and why I think it was important that Milley stayed. So exactly. You're here for the giant window. Let's face it, guys. You're here for the cool blue lights. Am I right? Am I right? The cool blue lights. And just wait. Once we finally get to winter again, and the sun sets early, which I hate, the room will be a beautiful blue, so it'll be kind of fun. And the cake recipes, that's true. And the mug cake, which, by the way, my mug cake recipe, you can find with a lot of other stuff on the Discord. In addition to the, basically the Discord is a place for all of us to chat. Well, keep chatting, because like we're doing here we're able to chat together. But once I go offline, you can post comments on my videos, you can post comments here, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's very one-off. Whereas the Discord can be a nice place for people to come in and chat. And anyway, it can be fun. But in addition to politics, because you guys asked for it, we also put in a section. They're called channels on Discord, but a section for recipes, because I love the Chicago accent. The funny part is my Chicago accent is much less than my family's, even though it's still a very strong Chicago accent, which I laugh because like my sister would leave me. I remember once, hold on a sec. My sister left me a message once and I laughed so hard because it was, "Hi, John, it's Kathy." And it was the best. I mean, I went, oh my God. Like I've been gone from Chicago so long that even her accent was strong to me. Whereas people out here definitely hear that I've got a Chicago accent, So any case, all right, guys, I feel fine. It's just the voice has been just really bad, really bad. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but it's just, it was doing better and now it's getting worse again. I'm just going to try to keep my voice down and we'll stop on time. I did go long the last few days and that was probably a really bad idea. So, all right, guys. Joseph. Misinfo is used by Russia as a gray zone tactic. They want to challenge the Western narrative on what is truth. Exactly. Trump opened the doors for many Westerners to question truth and ally themselves with Russia. Well, and as you said, it's not just aligning with Russia, although clearly he is and he wants. It's what you said at the beginning, the gray zone tactic. I'd not heard that phrase before, but the idea is sometimes you lie. A lot of times you lie. I mean, not you and me, but Trump, the Russians, certainly. You lie because of the Discord. I'm sorry, the Discord is discord.aravosis.com. You can also get there for you guys very easily. You need to use one of the invitations. I'm sorry. On TikTok, go to my profile. You'll see the web link that says beacons. Click on the beacons link in my profile, and it's one of those long list of links. The link that comes up, the top one, is for the Discord. Click that, and it's the invitation. And a good portion of the Discord is free. There's a VIP area for people who want to support me. The VIP area will have a bigger merchandise discount. It'll have we're having an auction on some of the Ukrainian stuff. That's got to be behind the paywall. But a lot of stuff is free. So if you check it out, please check it out. But yeah, so the idea, like for the Russians, but Trump too. Think of the election. Trump wants you to believe the election lie, that the election was stolen, but he also wants you to believe maybe the election was stolen because Trump still wins that way, right? If you're not sure, for example, what a beautiful middle position. I don't know if I'm not saying Biden didn't win, but I don't know if Biden won. I don't know if Trump won. Beautiful, right? That still helps Trump. So sometimes you put out the lie simply for COVID. Now, COVID, I can't figure out. I honestly don't know what the hell, unless literally Vladimir Putin had paid Trump or said, "Donald, I'm going to release the tape unless you kill a couple million Americans." I do not understand to this day. And Democrats, by the way, are horrible at messaging. Why Democrats to this day are still not talking about COVID? They let Republicans turn COVID into you're oppressing us. We should have turned COVID into you're killing people. And you want to kill people, and it's not clear why. It's not clear why. I don't get it. I really don't get the COVID stuff. But on COVID, they did it beautifully. Well, some people say, right? Some people say the virus was man-made in Wuhan. I'm not saying it was, but maybe, right? Some people say ivermectin can cure you. Why not let them try, right? You just want to create a gray zone where in the end, people go, well, I don't know what to believe. Well, I mean, if one side is telling the truth and the other side is telling lies, I don't know what to believe. wins the whole day. Then you've won because you've convinced people the truth may not be true. And only the liars win if that's the case. So, I mean, it's a very dangerous, very effective. And the Russians ate it up. The Russians are loving it, absolutely loving it. Very bad. And the Dems just suck at it. The Dems suck at messaging. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did my own research. They always said, remember that? That was the joke was that was on the tombstone. I did my own research. Which really, I mean, is a horrible joke, but a perfect joke, right? I mean, I did my own research. Oh no, I know people like that. It's crazy. We've somehow convinced people that, and again, it's the notion that this is a much greater danger. And unfortunately, it's coming from one party and not the other. The idea that experts shouldn't be believed. And I love this. Well, sometimes experts get it wrong. Okay, then. Well, then I guess we should have the mechanic fly the plane next time. And the janitor, the guy who cleans my building, maybe he can take out your appendix next time and do brain surgery. Because sometimes doctors get it wrong, Maybe we should let, I don't know, cashiers at the checkout counter at the grocery store. Maybe taxi drivers. We never give them a chance at brain surgery. Let's do that. Get out of here. Hold on. Only because I'm trusting you on this. Get out of here. Oops. Hold on, guys. This may be big news.
I want to ask each of you about, obviously, this
No.
January 6th committee. I want to start with the headline.
Are you sure? Because CNN's not saying it. Oh.
Yet have more details on that.
Holy shit.
But we do have that information. We know.
The FBI executed a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago, Trump's resort, where he lives.
You believe from that headline
Hold on.
such that it is right now?
Can you guys hear this?
Well, Aaron, it's an enormous step by the FBI and by DOJ. Here's what we know for sure. In order to get a search warrant in the federal system, prosecutors have to establish probable cause that a crime was committed. I've done this many times. You have to write it out in an affidavit in detail. Then you have to bring it over to a judge. The judge has to agree, yes, I find that there's probable cause that a crime was committed. Now, that's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but that still is significant evidentiary showing. You also have to show the judge that you're likely to find evidence in the place to be searched, and that evidence has been there, or you would expect it to have been there fairly recently in time. So that's what we know for sure. I think it's also very safe to say that given DOJ's written policies in the Justice Manual, this would have had to have been approved by the highest levels up to and including the Attorney General himself. So this is a major step. That's what we know for sure.
Jesus.
All right, a major step, that's what we know for sure. Now, Stephanie, we also know that it had turned out earlier, right, that the president had taken a lot of documents that were marked as top secret classified to Mar-a-Lago that he shouldn't have. I don't want to directly connect those two things because I don't know that they're connected. I'm just giving everyone the context that we know that happened in the past. You spent a lot of time.
She was a top Trump White House aide. The woman on the right, in the yellow, not the right, the yellow.
What context can you add?
I've got to disagree that this is enormous. I'm still wrapping my head around it because, as you said at the top of the show, this is breaking news. I think that, knowing Mar-a-Lago like I do, I would imagine his office and his bedroom office were two of the areas searched. I don't know if your viewers have yet seen the statement put out by the former president, but he is already, of course, blaming the FBI, calling it a witch hunt. So that says to me he's very, very nervous and very upset. So it's going to be really interesting. I think things are finally ramping up, and I hope and I wonder if people in the Republican Party will finally start to see things for how they are and what's right for the country.
Holy crap.
All right, both of you, please stay with me. Caitlin Collins is with us now with some more on this reporting. And Caitlin,
this doesn't happen in our country. This is unprecedented.
Yeah, this is incredibly significant. And of course, we should note that when the former president confirmed that, yes, this raid did happen on his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, he did not specify why exactly this raid happened. So we are still trying to confirm that. Of course, I know you mentioned the missing documents from the National Archives and concerns about that. So that remains to be seen. I will note that in this statement where the former president confirmed to me that yes, FBI agents did conduct a raid at Mar-a-Lago today, he said it was a large number of FBI, a large group of FBI agents.
Sure.
He says that he believes this is a politically motivated event that happened, this search of Mar-a-Lago. Of course, we're waiting to hear from authorities why they conducted this search, how they got this search warrant, and of course, what the reason is behind it. I will note, he does give one detail in here that is notable. He says, quote, Aaron, I'm going to read this now. Such an assault can only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries. He says, quote, they even
Department of Justice.
Now, Aaron, he does not say what they were looking for, what they wanted to get, if they took anything from that safe, but it is notable, he says, they did even break into his safe. In this statement,
They broke into his safe.
He does not say what
Woo!
for this raid. He does reference Hillary Clinton's emails. Of course, that has long been an obsession with the president. He said nothing happened to her to hold her accountable, talking about what she took from the White House. So that could be an indication that this is related to the National Archives. But again, we are still waiting to find out more, though Trump has confirmed to me that yes, this raid was conducted on Mar-a-Lago today.
Woo!
All right, Caitlin Collins, thank you very much. Of course, obviously
Woo!
very significant reporting here. Caitlin breaking this. Ellie, let me give you a chance to respond to a couple of the things that you just mentioned.
Ellie's a former prosecutor, as I believe.
One, that they even broke into his safe, and two, that he references a large number of FBI agents. What do you read into that?
Sure. So taking the second one first, typically when someone's executing a search warrant, you do send many, many agents out, especially in a large property like Mar-a-Lago. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a dozen or more FBI agents. That's fairly standard operating procedure. And a higher level sensitivity, of course, the more personnel you want there. It is a really interesting detail, as Caitlin noted, that the former president says that his safe was broken into. What you have to do in a search warrant affidavit is describe for the judge with some particularity, here's the kind of evidence we're searching for. And typically, in a case like this, it might include laptops, phone, thumb drives, electronic devices. And then typically, you have the authority to go into and to search and to enter any area that could house those items. So a safe certainly could house any of those items. That's fairly typical in this kind of search warrant, but you do have to specify, as I said before, you have to specify a crime. You have to establish that you have proof, probable cause proof of that crime being committed, and that you're likely to find evidence of that crime in the area that you're searching.
Okay, so Ellie, I do want to just, sort of to put the pause for a moment, put the emphasis here on something very basic but very crucial. They would have had to establish probable cause that a crime was committed, and that they needed to search for more information on that. Again, they would have had to have already established probable cause of a crime. In this case, related to the former president of the United States. I just want to put the exclamation point on that.
Yeah, and Aaron, let me explain sort of how that works. A prosecutor has to sit down and write out an affidavit with an FBI agent. You can't just say, hey, judge, we have probable cause, take our word for it. There actually are contexts where you can do that. But in a search warrant, you have to say, and here's what our probable cause is.
Oh,
you have to follow
interesting.
You have to write it all out.
Interesting.
Then there's a check on that. It's not just up to prosecutors. It's not just up to the FBI. You have to take it to a federal judge who then reviews it and has to agree. I've done this many times. Occasionally, a judge will say, I don't think you have enough evidence, or add a little more and come back, or I'm not signing.
The FBI executed a search warrant of Donald Trump's resort and his office, and even broke into his safe.
There's probable cause that's significantly less than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but that's a significant showing. It's not something the DOJ does lightly, particularly when you're talking about the property of the former president.
And a federal judge would have had to approve the warrant, which would have had to include proof of a crime.
Big story we were talking about today, right? Those pictures.
Or evidence suggesting a crime, I should say. Wow. This is significant. Doesn't mean he's going to jail, but this is significant. Yeah. Wow.
Do you think that there's something that would have been so precious to him or so important in all of this that he knew was damning or a smoking gun that he wouldn't have destroyed? He has clearly shown a willingness to destroy documents that by law he should not be destroying.
The short answer is yes. I don't know how to explain that, though. It's just from my years of knowing him. It could be something he's particularly proud of. It could be something he was going to use later to possibly blackmail someone. These are not me just guessing. I will say something that I find very interesting. You know, Mar-a-Lago is his home, and so it makes complete sense to me that that's where his most valuable item would be
Yeah.
stored.
Yeah.
And you know, as you mentioned,
Yeah, thank you, Inspired Woman.
pictures coming out. Another thing that keeps hitting me is how are they knowing about this stuff? That I know the circle around.
Yeah.
The president. I know the circle
Yeah.
around the president at the White House and Vietnam, and it's got to be somebody very close
Oh.
giving Maggie and giving the DOJ and the FBI.
Right. She's saying, how did they even know that he likely had something there unless it was someone close to him who told them? DOJ is Department of Justice. We use a lot of those abbreviations here.
Caitlin is back with us now. Caitlin literally moving and breaking story.
And Caitlin is a top CNN reporter. She's the woman there in black.
This raid happened today. This search warrant was executed at Mar-a-Lago today. I am told that the former president was not in Florida when this search was carried out by these FBI agents. He is actually at Trump Tower in New York. So that's not surprising given his schedule. He typically spends the summers in New York and New Jersey, and then the winters, that is when he is at Mar-a-Lago. Of course, as Stephanie was noting, it has become his home since he left the White House. That is where he moved into the Mar-a-Lago Resort in Palm Beach, Florida. So that is why this is so notable. And so, of course, we are still waiting to learn more on why this search warrant was executed, why it was carried out, and of course, what these agents learned from this being carried out. But it is a remarkable moment to see that the former president is confirming that this raid has happened and that there were a large number of FBI agents, as he says, at Mar-a-Lago today. And of course, as he said in his statement as well, he said they did access his safe. He did not say what he had kept in that safe, but it was a notable part of his very lengthy statement confirming this error.
Wow.
Right, obviously one raid
Wow.
with the motion that he would put that in
Not
there,
sure.
put that out. So suddenly Gloria Borger joins the conversation as well now.
Oh.
Gloria, what do you read into this?
Gloria is a very good analyst for CNN. I'd like to hear this too.
We don't
She's
know
very good.
What probable crime was established to a level that a federal judge said to go ahead and execute this search warrant, but we do know that all those things.
Nobody knows what they were looking for. They were looking for evidence of a crime, and they had evidence to convince a judge that a crime had probably been committed.
FBI agents raiding the home of a former president who was not there, by the way, as Caitlin was saying. And we also know, if you go back to April, we were reporting and others were reporting that the Justice Department began investigating the handling of these 15 boxes of White House records, including classified information that had been taken to Mar-a-Lago. I do not know whether this has anything to do with that, or whether those documents that they got led them to decide, well, maybe there's more there than we received. I mean, I'm just speculating here, and let me make that clear. But I do think that it is an extraordinary step for them to do this. So there must be something they are looking for. And Ellie can talk about that more than I can, but it seems to me to get a judge to say
That's the thing.
You can do this on the home of a former president. It has to be pretty striking.
They had to have something pretty good to convince a federal judge to approve this.
There's a lot of people watching this, and obviously as part of, we led the program, we were talking about the text messages which the January 6th committee had just obtained from Alex Jones, right? So when you talk about, in the context we're in, an FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, a lot of people are going to jump to the DOJ investigation into January 6th. But I want to be clear, Ellie, we don't know that these things are related or not, right? Could it be something specifically related, as Gloria's indicating, to those 15 boxes of classified documents that were not supposed to be removed from the National Archives, were supposed to be sent there, that went to Mar-a-Lago? Could it be as simple as the crime is removing those documents? Is it possible?
Yeah, it could be, Aaron. It could really be any federal crime under the sun. When you fill out these affidavits that you bring to a federal judge to get a search warrant, you have to name a crime, give the section number, and you have to say, here's our evidence. That could be information, as Stephanie was alluding to, as a possibility from a source, from an informant. It could be information that you got from text. It could be any kind of information at all. But you do have to say what specific crime you are investigating. Those papers typically don't come out until much later in the process. When they do come out, first thing I would look for is, well, what crime did they say? That will give us a big indication. But yes, unauthorized destruction of classified materials is a federal crime. There are several potential federal crimes relating to January 6. So it really could be any federal crime. One other point, Aaron, that I think is important to understand. People may be wondering, well, when do you execute a search warrant as opposed to send someone a subpoena, right? And the answer as a federal prosecutor is
Right.
if you don't believe that the person's going to faithfully comply with the subpoena,
Right.
if you don't
Right.
trust the person to fully turn over the documents, or if you believe there's some danger, I don't
Right.
think there's a danger concern here. But a search warrant tells me that DOJ and the FBI
Thought he would destroy the evidence.
that
Right.
Donald Trump or whoever the subject of this search warrant would be down at Mar-a-Lago would simply say, sure, thanks for the subpoena, here's all the documents requested, that they were able to establish that they had some concern that they might not be given all the evidence that they're entitled to.
And it had to be a
And again, yeah, go ahead, Laura.
it had to be a pretty intensive search, judging from the former president's statement. And, that it seemed to last much of the day. So the question is, and again, we don't know the answer. He says they went into his safe. Since he's not at Mar-a-Lago, somebody had to report that to him. And did they do it specifically because he wasn't?
Okay, I'll jump back. I mean, we've gotten the most news we can out of this at this point. Wow. I mean, like, wow. holy crap. Oh my God. This is crazy. Yeah, I'll leave this there so people can see. I mean, we don't have any more information yet. The thing is, and again, we don't know, for example, who they were going after. I mean, again, I'll devil's advocate this a little bit, but as a lawyer, could they have been going after Trump's son, Eric, because he works for the company and therefore they thought Trump might have, or Trump's son, Don Jr. That's a possibility, right? So somebody close to Trump that they thought Trump would keep the evidence in his office or something. Possibly. Possible. I will say, in America, this does not happen in America. But my point isn't the crime. My point is the investigation. We don't investigate former presidents. It's not done. I mean, like Sarkozy's in trouble in France. You don't do that here. And it's something that historically was considered a good thing by many. For example, Richard Nixon. When Richard Nixon, our president back in 1973, resigned because of Watergate. He and his people had orchestrated a criminal break-in, a burglary of Democratic Party headquarters, and they got caught. And the president was involved in a burglary. I mean, it was bad, right? He resigned. Well, Gerald Ford, who was his vice president, became president. Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, the president, and also governors. The president has the power to pardon you of any crime. It's to forgive you of any crime. It's more complicated than that, but bottom line is the power is absolute. Any federal crime, not state crime. Any federal crime, he can exonerate you. He exonerated Nixon 100%. And the idea was, for the good of the country moving forward, we needed to put this scandal behind us, was the idea, right? George Bush. Is George Bush a war criminal, right? The son, George W. Bush. Obama clearly thought that we can't do this. We cannot investigate a former president, even if we think. John S. Mabel, tell us what your handle is, and they can do it. But tell us what your TikTok handle is. Sorry, I forgot. I'm so excited about this. I'm forgetting what we were talking about. Oh yeah, Nixon. So yes, Bush, but Obama did not want to go after him for the good of the country, because we didn't want, we don't, I mean, it is not done. I don't know how to use words other than that. Culturally, we don't do that in America. So for this to happen means there had to be something solid and something significant, is my guess. So meaning whatever they had, it was a serious crime, and they had solid evidence of the crime, or there is no way in hell that the Attorney General, who is our Minister of Justice, is called the Attorney General here in America, right? So the Attorney General would not have approved it. It is an independent agency in a sense. It's in a sense that the Justice Department, as it's called, the Department of Justice, they investigate who needs to be investigated. The president can fire them, but the president can't order them to investigate someone or order them not to investigate someone. It doesn't work that way. So they go to the attorney general, who is independent, even though he's appointed by the president. He had to decide that, yes, this was important enough that we have to prosecute or that we have to do a search warrant. And then they had to go to a federal judge, and the federal judge had to see the evidence and say, yes, the evidence, basically you've proven, you have alleged a crime, and you have given me evidence to suggest that the crime did happen, and that the evidence is likely to be found in this location. This is serious. Now, correct, it could be anything. Trump's former wife died last month. It was kind of strange how she died. It could be that. I mean, again, the point is, it could be anything. It's not necessarily just the insurrection. It could be the insurrection. It could be the fake. Gosh, it's so confusing the way we do it. The fake, what do we call it? Electoral count people. What do we call them? Not the delegates, whatever they were called. But in other words, the fake certification of the letter that the Trump people were doing. Thank you, Bonnie. I haven't had that one in a while. It could be, in other words, when they were trying to fake the election results from the fake electors. Thank you, the electors. I mean, not that helps our foreign audience understand it any better. It's a very crazy system we use to elect presidents. But basically, each state has to report their results of the election to the federal government, and Trump's people lied. They created an alternate. In other words, the state of Arizona presented the legislature the real results, and then Trump's people created a fake set of results and turned those in too. That is a crime that it seems the Justice Department is investigating seriously. It could be that. So it could be a lot of different. It could be this morning in the papers, there was a big story, evidence. I've got the picture. Hang on. That we know Trump would take classified information, and that in violation of federal law, he would flush memos and things down the toilet at the White House. And we knew he did this. It was several staffers confirmed it. It's illegal. It's absolutely illegal. You have to preserve any of your documents from your work. You're not allowed to destroy any of them under federal U.S. law. Well, today, Maggie Haberman, who's a New York Times reporter, divulged that it was in Axios, that she was presented with 2 images, check this out, of documents in 2 toilets. This toilet is from the White House. So this toilet's the White House. This toilet was on a foreign trip that Trump was on. Both of them have pieces of paper with writing at the bottom. Multiple people have verified it's Donald Trump's writing. And he literally ripped it up, flushed it down a toilet, and it didn't work. So they got more pictures. Okay, yeah, we don't know anything yet. CNN doesn't. They don't know any updates yet. So my point is, it could be somebody other than Trump, but boy, it sure sounds like Trump if it's Mar-a-Lago, his office, and his safe. Who else is putting things in Donald Trump's safe other than Donald Trump? But I will say the biggest movement by the FBI seems to be on these fake electors. So you'd think, I will say this, you can loll all you want, but when the Justice Department gets a federal judge to execute a search warrant on your office, you're in serious trouble. And in the real world, LOL doesn't get you out of it. And LOL isn't an argument unless you're 12 years old. So unless you're 12 years old, Tennessee old guy, why don't you take a hike and go visit somebody else's forum? Because we are serious people and we are educated, intelligent people. We don't need the bullshit. So thank you, Maude. But that's what they do. That's what his people do. LOL, it's funny. He's funny. It's like, okay. Okay. Yeah, and John S. Mabel, you may have seen Syndicate responded to you, trying to help you out. Open a ticket, but he can go to the Discord and open a ticket about TikTok? Syndicate, that's what you're saying? Oh, he's already unmuted. Musical already unmuted. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Musical and Mikula. Appreciate that. Oh God, so LaShawn is watching Fox News for us. Actually, let's check in with Fox News, shall we? Hang on to your pants, folks. Fox News. This is going to be enjoyable. Fox News.
Ever seen before? This is something that is outrageous, and the usage of the FBI in this way is really the nail in the coffin for so many Americans as to whether you can trust the FBI or trust the DOJ.
See?
Clearly
Yeah.
not on political matters.
This is also about respect. You have a former president. of
About
the United
respect.
States.
About
You do
respect.
Respect. He has a slew of attorneys that can negotiate the release of.
That's not how it works.
Documents that are needed.
They already said that the reason you execute a search warrant is when you believe the people are going to destroy the evidence.
If going to is safe, if this is something that's going to be that sort of deal, then he's got thousands of lawyers on standby. The Justice Department can just call. the lawyer,
They're trying
Sherman will hand
with
it
all
over.
their might to
You don't
defend
kick
to
in the
defend
door.
Trump.
You do not kick in the door like that.
You don't kick in the door.
We have to also
Listen to him.
take this as now there's a likelihood that they're going to try to bring a federal indictment against former President Trump.
Yeah.
Woo!
I think now, because if they
They
don't,
may.
what they've shown us is thug police state tactics going right into the election season before the.
This is the kind of language that causes people to turn
Democrats-
violent, and this is why we get upset at these guys.
I think that means they might have
Because he just said thug police state. When you accuse the Department of when you say that the top judicial agency in our country is running a thug police state in the country, you are telling people to turn violent on them. This is what I always say about the language these guys use and far too many Republicans use. They use language that is either intended or is negligent language that will cause people to turn violent.
Hold it out there. You don't even need to indict him. You just have the FBI have this information and hang it over his head. And that's what they did with the dossier as well. They said, "Oh, we know some."
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no more of this crap. Yeah. Okay, just figured we want to see what they were up to.
Around his personal office, his personal quarters. That's Mar-a-Lago. It's obviously a massive place, and there's a certain part of the area that is just for the former president and his family. And so that is where it appeared to the action is happening today at Mar-a-Lago. This raid went on for several hours. We are told we are still learning more about what exactly that looked like and what time.
Trump's statement. They even broke into my safe. Well, that's what happens when but Ronbo, you have not heard inflammatory language from the president of the United States. That's the thing. We are talking about the head of the Republican Party. We are talking about the president of the United States when it comes to Trump, and we are talking about the current head of the Republican Party. You do not hear the kind of and you don't hear it from CNN hosts, but you do hear it from Fox News hosts. That's the problem. People talk about the left, but the left, they like to talk about members of Congress who, no one's heard of. And they say, Maxine Waters said some things we don't like. And I listened to her and she did say some stuff I didn't like, but she's Maxine Waters. She's one member of the House of Representatives that has 435 members. Who cares what Maxine Waters said, right? But she's not the president of the United States or the top news show, the top news network. It would be like literally CNN hosts saying the same thing. I mean, and again, I don't mean to disagree with you so meanly, but it bothers me when people say both sides say it, because what you typically have is on the Republican side, sadly, the highest levels, which is Donald Trump. On the Democratic side, you don't have Joe Biden or Barack Obama saying and doing the kind of things Donald Trump did, And they point to, and again, they're talking about Hillary Clinton. Well, okay, but let's face it. Hillary paid one hell of a price. She lost the election. which was her lifelong goal, you know? But also the Hillary thing, the FBI investigated it twice and found that, you know, it wasn't worthy of going after. Remember the second time? The FBI announced the Hillary thing it was 9 days before the election, I think. The FBI announced they're reopening the investigation. And it took them 4 days to say, oops, never mind. So, you know, but no, the Republicans, the point is that it just doesn't matter what they think. I don't care. There's no way to win over the crazies. And I've stopped worrying about the crazies because the crazies aren't going to vote for us. The crazies aren't going to defend our democracy. We've got to worry about the people in the middle. That's what we've got to worry about. You know, the sane people in the middle. So, you know. And fortunately, at least, and Hillary was never a president. Correct. You know, I mean, there's a question too. It could be Melania even. I mean, no, this is the point. It could be any issue. I think, you know, Occam's razor, which says basically if a number of things are possible, better to believe the thing that is more likely, you know, or most likely. And the most, thank you, Sky Queen, the most likely thing to believe right now is this is related to the investigation of the fake electors, because that was the biggest thing we knew about. Thank you, Gary, for that. That was I don't mean the biggest thing, I should be more precise. That was the issue we knew the FBI was paying the most attention to, right? But it could be the classified documents too. I mean, it could be. Now, the classified document thing gets interesting because, unfortunately, the president has the power to declassify anything. So Trump could have, Tucker will be amazing tonight. Trump.
Resources have confirmed to CNN, Sarah Marie, and Kristen Holmes that this search warrant that was executed on Mar-a-Lago today was in relation to that investigation into the handling of classified materials.
It is the classified documents.
The former president when he left the White House in January 2021 to go to Mar-a-Lago. Of course, that is something we knew was under investigation, whether they were mishandled and what happened, and why those boxes were taken there and what exactly was included. And now we have confirmed that is why this search warrant was executed on Mar-a-Lago Resort in Palm Beach today. Again, reminding people, Trump was not there at the time. He has since confirmed the raid in a statement to CNN, saying that there were a large number of agents there, that they broke into his safe. And we should note that what this investigation is about, and what we know so far, is about 15 boxes, over a dozen boxes that have been taken to Mar-a-Lago. We were told generally that they contained documents, mementos, some gifts that were included in that. And obviously there is a Presidential Records Act. You are not allowed to take certain classified documents with you when you leave the White House. That is the property of the National Archives. And so there have been major questions on how it's handled. Now, Trump has maintained his innocence. His aides currently have said that he handled all those documents properly.
Sure.
There were big questions about what was taken there. And clearly the fact that a raid was conducted and a search warrant was granted for the former president's property in Florida is very notable. It does signify an escalation in this investigation. Where it ends up, we don't know, and it remains to be seen. And right now, the Justice Department, of course, is not commenting.
All right, so Ellie, now that we've confirmed this, and you know, you've heard Caitlin say, you know, 3 sources. We've got multiple reporters here at CNN getting this information now. But what do you read into it? When this story first broke in the spring, a lot of the conversation was what if he had removed things that he shouldn't remove, that could be a criminal act. But there was always sort of a butt from a lot of lawyers that said, okay, the chances of moving ahead on something like this wouldn't be high. Yet here we are.
Yeah.
And they are moving ahead, right? And they have a search warrant.
Yeah.
So what could go to that? What could cause that?
So this is crucial context from Caitlin that we just got right now. It is a federal crime to remove classified documents wrongly, intentionally. And so if you're filling out that affidavit, you have to list the crime, you can list that as the crime. I think it's also important to note that it appears to be limited to that and not to the broader January 6th investigation. But I also have to note, even if you get a search warrant based on probable cause of crime A, and then you find other evidence of crimes B, C, and D, you can still use that evidence to pursue crimes B, C, and D. So sometimes
Ooh.
you find things that you're not expecting when you go in and do a search
Ooh.
warrant on this. One other important fact that Caitlin reported, the fact that the White House did not know DOJ was doing this, I think is really important. First of all, just institutionally.
Right.
DOJ absolutely should never be running these things by the White House for pre-approval. And second of all, we've already seen, and Donald Trump's immediate reaction was to claim it's political. That
Right.
was predictable. And by maintaining that wall of separation, I think DOJ sort of protects its own independence and integrity here.
So the Department of Justice did not notify the White House that they were going to do this. They didn't. They let the White House find out on the news, which is good because that's the way it should be. That's very interesting. I gotta say though, like it's a little weird though, because I kind of felt the same way. Like I think it was outrageous that Trump, basically stole all the classified documents, but I never thought they would go after him for it. So I'm very intrigued that they are. Now, mind you, the Federal Archives contacted them. They say we want the documents back. In principle, Trump returned many boxes, right? Pull up the story. Let me pull up the story again. Although the problem is, I think now it's going to have the new story. Trump classified documents, boxes. I want to see how many boxes were returned. Was it 15? But was 15 the number that was returned then? The long journey to a secure began, 15 boxes of documents, some classified and marked top secret. Wait, the journey from Mar-a-Lago to a secure facility in Washington began last summer when the National Archives contacted Trump's team to alert it that some high-profile documents from his presidency appeared to be missing. Okay, it was not until the end of the year that the boxes were finally ready for collection. According to two people familiar with the logistics, this would be the end of last year. All right. At one point, the archives threatened that if Trump's team did not voluntarily produce the materials, they would send a letter to Congress or the Justice Department revealing the lack of cooperation. Interesting. Okay, so here's what happens. Okay, and again, I'm going to do this on the best information we've got. They contact Trump. They say, we're contacting the Justice Department. If you don't return the documents you took, it was illegal for you to take them and to take those boxes. Trump stonewalls. Trump finally caves and returns the boxes. Somebody on Trump's staff sees that he kept some of the boxes, sees that he kept some of the documents. In other words, I guarantee you, I'm not going to guarantee you. My thinking is, do you think, knowing Donald Trump, do you think Trump simply returned the 15 boxes, or do you think Trump went through the 15 boxes and kept a couple things? Right? This to me says, and we're just guessing here, that Trump went through the boxes, kept some things, and somebody saw him do it, and somebody told the Justice Department about it. And they said, he didn't return everything. I know for a fact. He could be Melania, it could be one of his kids, it could be anybody. By the way, it could be something who's in trouble with another crime, and gave this information in order to get them off the hook. They're offering up somebody bigger. So that's my guess. And the reason Justice Department goes after him is because he committed a pretty serious crime, and they gave him a chance to return the documents. He dragged his feet forever, and he finally returned them, and then he didn't really return them. That means you're no longer at the stage where you say, look, you took them. Actually, this is a very good argument to sort of respond to the Hillary thing. This is akin to Hillary, and we just found out today, there's more emails Hillary didn't tell us about. You know what I mean? And she knew about it. And even better, we said, Hillary, like you said, there's this, we know the emails we're looking for. You said some were missing, but you actually had them all the time. And you knew you had them all the time. And you said, I don't care. We're not giving those 1,000 emails to the Justice Department. Just don't tell anybody. Hillary didn't do that. It appears Donald Trump may have. That's the difference with Hillary, I would argue. But this is them giving Trump a chance like they gave Hillary a chance. Trump returned the stolen documents and he effed them over, and he didn't really return all the documents. And he knew, again, what is it, mensis rea? I'm trying to think, what is it called? He knew that he didn't return all the documents. And that's why they're going after him legally now. Again, could be wrong. We're all guessing here, but this would still have to be something rather serious for them to go ahead and for them to go ahead and do this. You know? And to me, it's not just intent, because the intent was there at the beginning. It was the intent to still lie about it, to further the crime after he was given an opportunity to come clean. And mind you, they took the documents back and they weren't going to charge him, you know? So that's when they go, okay, this is now a serious crime, because now we don't know what the hell else he has. And again, we're dealing with Donald Trump. I'll leave it at that. You know, Donald Trump, do you think Donald Trump would go through the boxes before returning them to say, I want to keep a couple things? I mean, oh God, see, we waited this long and then the little spam bots came out. What a surprise. So very interesting. Obviously very interesting. Oh boy. I know. I'm not going to stay on too long because, again, my voice, once again, I went super long because of this, which I should not have done because of the voice thing. But oh boy, this may, even though I've gained a little weight the last couple of weeks, this may be a chocolate mug cake night, just because this is too good, which, by the way, you can find the recipe for the mug cake in the Discord. So yeah, so the Discord is discord.aravosis.com. You can find the link on TikTok. It's easiest. Just go to the web address, the Beacons link in my TikTok profile. Click over. Top link is to the Discord. Next link is to the store. Oh, and we did finally put, I'm not going to update the store anymore for a little bit. But we did update the store with at least one more thing. Two things today? Maybe one or two things today. But I put the really cool, and the store is just aravosis.com, but I put the stork, which I really liked. So we took the stork and we did not include the dead body because I thought that might have been a bit too much, understandably. But we've got the stork with the heroes never die on top, which I think is really neat. And this was Miroslava, who's in the first grade, imagine, you know? But it's really neat. So I did, and that one, the cool thing is that one works for a lot of colors. I've got the women's shirts too, but it's a lot of different colors. I'll show you the last little thing and then I'll stop with this. I may have shown you yesterday the police patch, but I think it's really cool. This is the this is the official patch of the Ukrainian police, but it's neat because I like it because it says Policja in Ukrainian for police. Because to me, at least, I always like stuff that's got foreign language on it. To me, that's the coolest. And there's a trident. Oh, you can see it. There's a trident in the middle too. Oh, you can just see the trident. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. All right. So, I mean, I will keep, I was going to say, I'm not going to keep pushing the store. I will keep pushing the store, but when there's new things to show you guys. So aravosis.com is the store and discord.aravosis.com is the Discord. Go over and sign up. I will say it last year when I first got on Discord, it took me a second to figure it out. But there's people there to help. I'm there to help. Discord's there to Discord. Syndicate's there to help. We've got a couple mods too. And not just the mods. There's a number of people of you guys who have used Discords before. So that's nice too. But check it out. It's just a place where we can keep talking. Honestly, it's the conversation you guys are having here and the conversation you guys are having there. It's just another place. Thank you, Inspired Woman, to keep having the conversation. Because when I finish the live, it stops, but this way we can, and like I said, there's a thing for recipes, which I hope people will use because I love the recipe thing. I will do I will do a quick recap since my voice is a mess. And this Trump thing got me too excited, but it was probably really bad for my voice. All right. And then I'll hang up and, Parapoli. Or not Parapoli, I should say, I can't remember. I'm forgetting in Greek. Oh my God. You're welcome. I'm forgetting. Parapoli. Is it Parapoli? Okay. I'm forgetting what you say as a response in Greek to thank you for your welcome. Oh my God. I'm tired. See, I'm tired now too. This got me winded. All right. Russian forces are deliberately sending civilian traffic over one of the bridges. So they stop for Discord. Let me ask really quick. Their Discord, I don't think has an app, does it? Somebody's asking if Discord has an app. Yeah, they do. I'm sorry. What am I saying? Of course they do. Yeah. Discord has an app. Of course they do. Yeah. So you can para calor. I'm saying para poli. Para calor, of course. I was wondering why I was thinking para poli, but yeah, para calor. I know that. That's like my simple Greek that I'm forgetting, which is really bad. All right, guys. So real quick, so the Russians are sending civilian traffic over the bridges. They don't want blown up. The partisans are now putting out a newspaper, and they've offered a $230,000 bounty for the live capture of the Russian-appointed governor of Crimea, for the live capture and the transportation to Ukraine. The Ukrainian security services say the Russians were planning to assassinate the Ukrainian defense minister, and they caught the guys trying to do it. The U.S. announced gave the details of a new $1 billion aid package, lots of munitions, some equipment. The Ukrainians say there's no point in negotiating with the Russians right now. They're going to wait until they get some of their land back, and the Russians are doing worse. There were reports that the Russians were talking about taking orphans, in other words, the children of parents who were murdered by the Russians, and taking those orphans back to Russia. The Ukrainians hit 2 more bridges in Kherson, which is very good. Russians, there are reports, British intelligence says it is highly likely that the Russians are using butterfly mines in eastern Ukraine. These are the mines that were horrifically used in Afghanistan, and small children pick them up thinking they're toys and blow their hands off. The Russians are still planning a referendum in the occupied territories to fake the election and say that, the Ukrainians really want to be part of Russia. I gave sort of a number of updates on that. Then we talked about the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's top uniformed military official, and the release of his letter he wrote to Trump resigning that he never gave, but was a very powerful letter. And finally, we've been listening to the TV and hearing all sorts of updates about Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort getting searched by the FBI. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go. This was really bad for my voice, but we had to do it. This was too important. So, all right, let's see. We'll have to see in the next few days. Maybe I'll take a day off if I have to, because clearly talking is making it worse, though not talking isn't helping enough. So, all right, goodbye, everybody. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, unless anything changes. Wild, absolutely wild. Sorry. Roisin is saying the important thing about today's FBI raid is that Trump will never again feel that he's beyond the reach of the law. That's true. It's going to scare Trump. All right. Bye, guys. I'm going to touch my laptop. That was funny. All right.